Today we're talking about education and how Eden was the first classroom. Sharissa, you have a background in teaching, some training back in the day in teaching. How do you think Eden was the first classroom?
Well, you know, it's interesting when you say that, and actually as we were studying together this week, just recognizing that Eden really was the first classroom, and if that's the case, then God was the first teacher. And just like when you cast your mind back to high school, you remember what your teacher did to the classroom to make it a learning environment conducive to learning. So God, when he made his classroom in the Garden of Eden, he just put so much beauty, so much detail and intricacy into it. You can tell so much about the Creator by looking at his classroom. Mm-hmm. And as I was reflecting on this, you also realize that, you know, in high school and in primary school, there are rules to every classroom. So too, God even has rules to his classroom as well.
Yeah, true. And those rules, some of them, Phil, we were talking about this a bit earlier, but what are some of the rules and what kind of significance did they have and do they have even to us today?
Well, one of the main rules that God kind of pointed out to him, he said, look, you can eat anywhere you want in this garden, but there's one tree you can't touch. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I don't know why that tree was put in the middle. I think it was, you know, obedience is important to God. And it's like, after studying, you know, and kind of contemplating this issue, I think the biggest lesson that Adam and Eve learnt was at that tree. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that is because now they're going to learn another point of view. Now they're going to learn a contradiction to what they've learnt. And it's going to be interesting how Adam and Eve react to this, because the Creator, the person that's made them and taught them all these things, you know, in the garden, taught them about birds, taught them about lions, taught them about ground and pH levels and how to grow and what happens and everything. There's so much to learn, but now they're confronted with, okay, now it's a contradiction. Now someone's telling us something different than what God's told us. So where do we find truth now? Now they're learning about, okay, what's truth and what's not truth. And how do we trust, you know, all these conversations coming in. So at that point, it's an important lesson for us too. Because what's the world trying to sell us? What is everything else but God trying to sell us? And we find it's a contradiction.
Very true.
And at that point, I think it's a great learning lesson for us.
Because God also gave them the gift of choice, the free will. Like God is a God of love. He respects our ability to make choices. Right. And as you said, at that tree, they had an opportunity to exercise free will, and they made the wrong choice. But that also is a lesson for us. We can make the wrong choice, I guess.
Yeah, very true. And as a result of that wrong choice, as Adam and Eve were made in the image of God, that image became broken to some degree. And so, yes, humans today, we are still made in the image of God originally, but we're naturally selfish instead of selfless. Instead of loving and focusing on others, we naturally tend to look out for ourselves. But the theme of education throughout the Bible and true education is that Jesus was to come and redeem humanity from what Adam and Eve lost. And the image of God would be restored to us once again. That is a beautiful, fantastic lesson and reality. And that's the greatest theme of all true education, right? Is restoring us into the image of God.
Yep.
And, you know, we hope that you enjoy studying this Bible study together. And we want to invite you to always make God your teacher.